Parshas Toldos, Tavshin Vav. First thing I must say is that we walked in here tonight to Nesivos Shalom headquarters in Lakewood, and there's a lot going on here tonight. Volunteers, phone banks. It's just an amazing amount of stuff going on here. And really, what's it all about? It's all about next week's fantastic Chinese auction to benefit Nesivos Shalom of Lakewood. Now, the Chinese auction, we can't go through this entire book over here with these fantastic, unbelievable prizes. But it's next week, November 21st, I believe. Actually, they let me know that if I get caught with one of these on my car, I will actually be eligible to win a very special prize. I still have last year's on my car, and I'm thinking if I have this one and last year's together, I'll get something very extra special. But very, very worthy organization, Nesivos Shalom of Lakewood, and when they do something, they do it right. So remember, aside from the wonderful shir that we have here every Thursday night, the wonderful crowd that attends the shir, next week, Chinese auction to benefit Nesivos Shalom of Lakewood. And I'm sure you can join in many different ways. And it'll be all over out there, so answer your volunteers' call this week. Parshas Toldos, Pasuk says, before Sheni in the Parsha, Ekev asher shama Avraham b'koili, vayishmor mishmarti mitzvoisai u'koisai v'sorasai. And there's so much going on in this week's Parsha, and we've actually spoken very much about the real highlights, what people perceive to be the highlights. We've spoken about the birth of Yaakov and Esav. We've spoken about the brachos that were given to Yaakov that were supposed to be for Esav. They weren't supposed to be for Esav. Many, many, many deep concepts in this week's Parsha. So now we move off to some of the other beautiful Nesivos Shaloms on the Parsha. And on this pasuk that talks about Avraham Avinu keeping the Torah, Chazal tell us, the Gemara, Masechta Yuma, Daf Ches, Amud Beis, Chazal tell us that we derive from this pasuk in our parsha that Avraham Avinu was mekayim the entire Torah. And the Nesivos Shalom says that we really need to explain why only about Avraham Avinu do we find that the Torah mentions to us explicitly that he was mekayim the entire Torah. Why not about the other avos? We see here in our parsha, there's a pasuk that explicitly tells us, and we learn from this pasuk, that Avraham Avinu was mekayim the entire Torah. That's one question. Another thing we need to understand is we need to understand why is it, as we've actually discussed over the past couple of weeks too, that only Avraham Avinu was tested with nisyonos. We find that Avraham Avinu had to go through 10 nisyonos, right? And why is it that only Avraham Avinu? So we have two questions. Why only Avraham Avinu? Does the Torah tell us that he's mekayim the entire Torah? And why was only Avraham Avinu tested with the nisyonos, as we know? Another thing, asks Nesivos Shalom, is that we see there's a pasuk in Parshas Lech Lecha. The pasuk tells us at the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha that when Avraham Avinu was coming to Mitzrayim, so we know that Paro wanted to take away Sarah. And the pasuk tells us, Hineno yodati ki isha yifas mare'on. That Avraham Avinu says that I know and I see now that Sarah, you are a very beautiful woman. So the Chazal tell us that it was dafka only at that time. At that time, when Avraham Avinu looked at Sarah, Avraham Avinu said he noticed how physically beautiful Sarah Imenu was. And it speaks about the tremendous madrega of tznius that was between Avraham and Sarah. And only at that time, just then, after being married for so many years, Avraham Avinu Taka noticed right then that Sarah was a very physically beautiful woman. So the question is, once again, why dafka by Avraham Avinu do we mention this virtue of Avraham Avinu? We know that all the avos were, of course, Kedoshim and Tahirim high level of tznius, why do we find that the Torah goes ahead and mentions all these things only about Avraham Avinu and not telling us these virtues about the other avos? So the Zohar tells us about an Indian in our parsha, and I wonder if anybody ever wondered about these things. There are certain things that you could, no matter how many times you hear about the birth of Yaakov and Esav and the different directions that they took, and no matter how many times you hear about the brachos that were given to Yaakov, it's always so deep and there's always so much you can learn about. But what about the section of our parsha that deals about the Be'eros? It says that Yitzchak Avinu went, as Avraham Avinu did previously, he went and he dug wells. What is the whole Shakla V'Taya? What is the whole concept of these digging of the wells? So the Zohar tells us that the Indian of digging the Be'eros is that when the Avos, Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu, dug Be'eros, what they were actually doing was digging up and bringing out different midos. They were bringing out more emunas Hashem in the world. It wasn't just Pasha that they were digging out earth and looking for water and seeing if they could hit water by digging down, maybe going all the way to China and seeing if there's a water base. And it's a lot deeper than that. They went and they were bringing out their midos and spreading it to the world. And we know that Avraham Avinu dug Be'eros, he dug the wells, and when Avraham Avinu was nifter, the Plishtim went and they worshipped Avodah Zarah. So they, so to speak, closed up the Be'eros of Emunah that Avraham Avinu had brought out. And what is the digging of the wells in this week's Parsha? Yitzchak Avinu then went ahead and he redug those Be'eros that Avraham Avinu had dug, and he taught Emunah once again. And that's a little bit more of a deeper understanding of what it was to dig up these Be'eros. But by Yaakov Avinu, we do not find at all that Yaakov Avinu dug Be'eros. Why is that? Also, why is it that we find that the Pelishtim only closed off and only stuffed up the wells that Avraham Avinu had dug? In this week's Parsha, we see that Yitzchak Avinu dug the wells and they were actually able to stay open. Those wells stayed open. The Pelishtim did not go ahead and stuff up, once again, the Be'eros of Yitzchak Avinu. So the explanation, says in Nesivos Shalom, is really about what kind of hashpah each of the avos was trying to bring out and to teach to the world. He says like this: the Be'eros that were dug by Avraham Avinu, what did it bring out? It brought out the midos of Avraham Avinu. What were the midos? The midos were chesed and ahava. And the Be'eros of Yitzchak, when Yitzchak Avinu dug Be'eros, they brought out the midos of Yitzchak Avinu. And what were those? Those were Gevura and Yira. Different ways of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what they spread to the world. Yaakov Avinu, we know, says in Nesivos Shalom right away, had the midah of Tiferes, so he did not have to dig up any of these Be'eros, because the midah of Tiferes combines Chesed and Gevura, it combines Ahava and Yira, so Yaakov Avinu did not have to dig any new Be'eros. And listen to this beautiful, deep explanation that the Nesivos Shalom gives as to why it was that only the Be'eros, the wells of Avraham Avinu, were filled up by the Goyim, but not the Be'eros of Yitzchak Avinu. And he says like this: Yira Shemayim, a midah of Yitzchak Avinu, right? A midah of Yira. When somebody works on Yira Shemayim, when you work on that for yourself, that can never be taken away from you, says Nesivos Shalom. The Yetzer Hara has no jurisdiction, no shlita over what you work on yourself in Yira Shemayim. Therefore, he says like this: the Be'eros of Avraham Avinu, which taught Ahava, those, the Goyim, the Plishtim, the people who were anti the Avraham Avinu, they were able to stuff those up. He says, you know why? Because the Be'eros of Avraham Avinu taught Ahava. And Ahava is a midah we all know can go very bad. It can go very wrong. The midah of Ahava, the midah of love, could be used for all the wrong things and all the wrong reasons. The midah of love could go very ori, and it's behind a lot of the negative things that happen in this world, because we perceive and we think that we love this, and we love this type of person, and this thing, and this type of food, and this kind of thing. And the midah of Ahava can go very, very off the track. But the Midas Hayira of Yitzchak, those that are worked on by the person, when a person works on Yira Shemayim, those cannot be stuffed up and taken away. So, the Be'eros, those Be'eros that were dug by Avraham Avinu, those, the Plishtim, those the Yetzer Hara was able to fight. The Be'eros of Yitzchak Avinu were not refilled. And even though the Midah of Ahava is greater, we know that Ahava is the highest way to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. You still have to make sure, and you need to be careful that your Ahava, even though it's the highest way, you have to make sure that it's not being used in the wrong way. And that is why we say, Reishis Chachma is what? Is Yiras Hashem. A person has to know to work that you always, before you get to the Madrega of Ahava, you have to have Yiras Hashem. You need to have Yira first. Yiras Hashem takes you a long way. Like we say, Yiras Hashem Tohira Oimedes Lo'at. That, once you work on it, you have Yiras Hashem, it endures forever. It endures for a long time. So Yitzchak Avinu, we asked, why was it that Yitzchak Avinu wasn't tested with the Nisyonis? Why only Avraham Avinu? You know why? Because the Nisyonis that a person has are only for the Midah of Ahava. For the Midah of Ahava, it has to be tested. Is your Ahava the right kind of Ahava? You have an Ahava, you have this love. Are you using it to love the Rebbeinu Shalom? Are you using it to love all the right things? For that, you need Nisyonis, to see if the Ahava is being used in the correct way. And that is why we also mention that Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah, and we don't mention that the other Avos, we don't talk about that they kept the whole Torah, because Avraham Avinu had the Midah of Ahava. And we're telling you now that you taka need the whole Torah, you need the backing of everything, you need the backing of all of that in order to be tested to see if your Midah of Ahava. For the same reason we mention about Avraham Avinu, the Midah of Tznius. And we don't mention about the other Avos, even though the other Avos were Avada, Kedoshim, and Tohirim. But we say about the Midah of Avraham Avinu that it was tested, it was tried and true, it was tested that Avraham Avinu used his Midah of Ahava, and the Midah of Ahava that was also focused toward Tzari Menu, he used it in the right way. And what we see in the lesson from this week's Parsha is that there are different Midahs, and different Midahs that we have to work on, but a person has to work on the Yiras Shemayim. And of course you have to have the Midas Ahava, but even every single Midah has to be worked on, that it's used in the right way. And that is the lesson we learn from the Be'eros, not Pasha just digging up. You learn it digging up, and there's water, and then there wasn't water, and there was water. No, it's talking about the Hashpais, that every person has the capability to bring out in this world, but it has to be brought about in the right way.